Hey you, it's CovertGoBlue, and today we are looking at 4 more cards from the early March of the Machines preview. And they look sweet. We're going to start with another team-up card. This is Drana and Limbala. This is 1 white, black for a 3/4 Vampire Angel legend. And this has flying and vigilance and activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. Drana and Limbala has all the activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control. You may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to activate those abilities. We'll answer the question, is this a commander card? Is this a standard card? Is this a historic brawl card? We're going to start right off with what it can do in standard, and it's not nothing. Activated abilities on creatures are, sometimes they have a major spot in the format, sometimes they don't. The standard is kind of in between. Blood Tithe Harvester is a card that this would shut off, although stealing its ability is probably not particularly great unless you somehow have a good amount of blood. How about Reflection of Kiki Jiki? Shutting this off and stealing this ability, that's pretty solid. Have you lost to this card? I know I have. Many people have. So those two right up front kind of give me the idea that maybe Drana and Limbala has some legs in sideboards or somewhere in standard. And then you have Llanowar Elves. So I just put this on here to represent any and all mana dorks across every single format. You turn them off for your opponent. You gain the ability to tap for mana with Drana and Limbala. And this is where the sneaky good part of this card is. Stealing activated abilities doesn't mean much if you can't activate them. And a lot of times when you have a creature, you want to be attacking with it or blocking, not activating the ability, especially if it's a very minor ability. However, Drana and Limbala figured this out, and they came with vigilance, which is sweet. You can get your damage in and use the activated abilities when the time comes to use them. So this card is actually packaged in a very good way. It's also a Vampire Angel. Those are two relevant types. There are themed synergies in both the vampires and the angel sides of this card that you can play this with. Angels particularly has Giada right now, which I think is very, very good. Vampires don't have quite as tight synergies, but across like the whole of Magic, there are a lot of things you can pull from. So I would say that Drana and Limbala, at least starting out, is a very good commander card. I also think it's going to be a very good historic brawl card, because if you think about Kinnan trying to do Kinnan things, or Golos, Drana and Limbala can absolutely wreck that. Specifically think about Golos. You can use mana as though it were mana of any color to activate that ability, so you can steal a Golos ability in a white and black deck. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I think that this card will have a regular spot in Brawl and a regular spot in Commander. In Standard, iffy, much tougher to make your 3/4 for 4 flying vigilant creature good. And while there are some things that definitely turns off that are helpful, I'm not sure how much of this card you can really run. So for me, this is much more a commander card, like a B to B plus in commander and historic brawl, and probably just a C, occasional sideboard play in standard. The next card that we're going to cover is Yargo and Multani. This is 3 black, green for a legendary creature. It's a frog spirit elemental. It's an 18/6. That's it. That's the card. The whole thing. 18/6 for 6. It's been kind of speculated on over the years how big a card would have to be to see play strictly based on power and toughness with no ability and no enter the battlefield trigger. Some people said that it could be a 5-mana 20/20 and it still wouldn't be good because of that. Yargo is trying. 18/6. So if you have any effect that does damage equal to its power, and you can cheat this into play, you can probably think of some combos that make this very, very good. But this is probably at its core most this is, if there's a way to cheat this out and give it haste and just hit your opponent for 18 somehow, and they can't stop it, this is busted. But you still have to give it abilities. Like if there's ever a reanimation spell or a sneak attack type spell that also gives trample, for example, and haste, both of those things, this card will be insane. But for the most part, this card won't do anything because it just won't ever pass that test, at least not in standard. In Historic Brawl, this will probably be a meme commander that people will want to try. In Commander, Now this is a very dangerous card because you give it +3, +0, and trample or unblockability somehow, and as your commander you can build your whole deck around this idea, and this card will one-shot people with commander damage, which is, that's not nothing. Like, that will do work. So I am a big Yargo and Multani like believer for commander, that you'll at least kill a person or two. Yargo Voltron is a deck I've played against in commander. A shout out to Olivia, she enjoys that deck quite a bit. This will be probably the new version of Yargo Voltron that will just wreck people, often in one shot. So commander card, B plus in commander, and probably a D everywhere else unless a card gets printed that shouldn't exist. Breach the Multiverse, 5 black sorcery. Each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then each creature you control becomes Phyrexian in addition to other types. 7 mana. Milling 10 cards is like very likely, and it doesn't have to be in what you mill. It can also just already be in the graveyard to be a hit. So it's not that you're not going to hit, it's just that it's a 7 mana sorcery. So this in standard or brawl is tremendously unrealistic unless you have some way to cast it for free. And even then, if you're casting 7 mana spells for free, you can probably do better than Breach the Multiverse, quite honestly. I mean, think about Portal to Phyrexia, one with the Multiverse and things of that nature. So yeah, I'm not a believer in this card in any kind of 1v1 format. In Commander, this is probably a big nasty meme, but you'd still probably prefer to run things like Rise of the Dark Realms. If you have enough room in your deck for more giant black sorceries, then this is probably like 3rd or 4th on the list of things you could run that's huge and has a splashy effect and can be very powerful and fun. And then the last card is Moment of Truth. This is 1 in a blue for a common instant. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 of those cards into your hand, 1 into your graveyard, and 1 on the bottom of your library. Generally speaking, putting a card, it's like Anticipate, but on Anticipate, everything goes to the bottom. Generally speaking, putting a card into your graveyard is better than the bottom of your library, and that is a little counterintuitive to some people who are new to Magic and don't see their graveyard as a resource. But when you think about like Impulse being played in the mono blue tempo deck, wouldn't you rather have the ability to put another spell in your graveyard to make your Tolarian Terror cost less, to make your Haughty Djinn hit harder? So this might take that spot. It will compete with Impulse. Impulse sees 4 cards, so it's not strictly better, but it's close. The main reason I want to talk about this card is lore related, and we're slipping into Covert Go lore corner. And it says that on the precipice of eternity, Elspeth made a choice. The fight would not end without her. Last we saw Elspeth, she was on Vanish into eternity. And she was taking the Filigree Silex into the Blind Eternities and letting it blow up there and incinerate her as well. So there was a good chance dead. I thought that there was a pretty good chance that we had a dead Elspeth situation, that she died a hero. She's been all the way to the underworld and back. So like, you know, she's died before and gotten out of it, so that doesn't necessarily mean the end. And I think here that she died but went to the other place. She was given a hero's death, and it looks like she went to heaven because you see the feathers. But I think that she is going to return as an angel to finish the fight with the Phyrexians and be the great hero that many would love to see her be. So I expect a very powerful and very awesome and very impactful and very collectible Elspeth Planeswalker in this set, and I'm here for it. You get it, girl. You deserve some retribution. You've had just a terrible time in the lore, like a very tragic story, and time to get you some. All right. That's going to do it for this particular video, and that covers the early released spoilers from the set, although we still do have some Commander spoilers I might make a different video about, but the ones that will be standard legal. So if you watched all my videos on the March of the Machines early update, you have now seen all the things in March of the Machines that we know so far. And I'll see you in the next video, and there are more to talk about. Thank you for watching. You're cool.